It's time to talk all things wide receivers as it relates to the Buffalo Bills and the 2022 NFL Draft today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Monday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, or if you're joining us on the YouTube channel, your first watch every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Today on the podcast, we are talking wide receivers, the Buffalo Bills, the 2022 NFL Draft. This is your wide receiver primer. Just like we did for the running back position, I want to do the same thing today for wide receivers, where we'll talk a little bit about the dynamics of the position, and then I'm going to give you my targets for the Bills in the first round, second round, third round, and a couple of day three players. We're going to get through a lot of prospects today. I want to introduce you to these names, tell you what I like about them, give you my comp. And so for each player, I'll tell you their name, their school, their size, their athleticism, a couple of strengths, their biggest concern, and my professional comp. Remember, comps are stylistic comps. So when I give a comparison, it doesn't mean that I think it will be the same career arc. It just means they play a similar style of football. I'm trying to paint a picture for you to realize what type of player the Bills would be getting if they were to select that wide receiver. So let's talk just a little bit about the dynamics here and the need that exists for the Buffalo Bills. There's a reason that there's going to be some positions that we spend a little bit more time on than others, and that's because I think they're important. I think they are critical needs for the Bills. And when you consider this Bills offense, it is a wide receiver-centric offense. I've been saying that for a couple of years now on this podcast. And I have some data that I want to give you to kind of back that up. Over the last two seasons, 2020, 2021, Josh Allen's two big years, right? The Bills have completed 823 total passes. Let's look at the distribution of those 823 completed passes over the last two seasons. 124 have gone to running backs. 103 have gone to tight ends. And 596 have gone to wide receivers. 72% of Bills completions over the last two seasons have gone to wide receivers. Now, surely every team's highest percentage of completions is going to go to wide receivers, but this is a significant chunk. We're talking 3 out of every 4 completions going to a wide receiver. This is Josh Allen's bread and butter, throwing the football to wide receivers. And I think it's important for the Bills to make sure the cupboard is always full of wide receiving talent. Sean McDermott last offseason talked about keeping the fastball, right? The Bills' fastball on offense is Josh Allen throwing the football to wide receivers. And I like the makeup of this group. The Bills have Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, who looks like he's an emerging star. Jamison Crowder, Isaiah McKenzie. Those are good players. But I think the Bills need to be very mindful of how important this position is and keep investing. Keep adding to it. Part of the reason is not only I want to make sure the Bills have a deep and talented wide receiver core for Josh Allen to throw the football to, but let's look at the economic impact here. Stephon Diggs at some point is going to get a reworked contract, an extension. Something's going to happen with this contract, and it's going to pay him, I would say, at least $25 million per season on average. Gabriel Davis is trending towards becoming a $20 million per season type player. If he breaks out like I think we all expect him to this year, and stacks another good season like that on top of it, he's going to be crazy expensive. So you're talking about $45, $50 million a season tied up in Diggs and Davis. The Bills have got to find some meaningful economic answers at wide receiver. And you look at the two trades that happened across the NFL with wide receivers. I'm talking the big ones. Well, no, let's throw Amari Cooper into this. We saw this offseason Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs get traded. We saw Devontae Adams from the Packers get traded. We saw Amari Cooper from the Cowboys get traded. You notice something about all three of those teams? Every single one of them is paying their quarterback massive amounts of money. Aaron Rodgers just got that crazy new deal. Pat Mahomes has that massive 10-year, $450 million deal. And Dak Prescott is a $40 million a year quarterback. Raise your eyebrows a little bit because the Bills are about to pay Josh Allen in that same tier. And so when you are committing that type of resources to your quarterback, it affects the rest of your roster. You don't have as much to go around. And so we've seen 3 teams now that have paid their quarterback top tier money move on from their number one receiver. I'm not saying it's going to happen in Buffalo, but I am saying that there is a consequence to what you're paying Josh Allen. And you have to start asking yourself questions like, would we be better served paying Stephon Diggs $25 to $30 million a season or getting younger and cheaper at the position? We saw 3 teams already choose to go younger and cheaper. I also think that the Bills need to round out the skill sets in their wide receiver core. They can use a burner, a guy that can really win down the field, get behind secondaries, and put stress on opposing defenses. That's very meaningful for your spacing. And then they can use a run after catch guy. They need more players that can win after the catch. So let's get into these options. Let's start with my first round options, then we'll work into second round and third round guys. We'll get to like 15, 16 receivers today. Now, I do want to point out real quick before I start digging into the weeds here with my options for the Bills, is that these rankings are Bills specific. They're very different than my overall rankings. You're going to look at my draft board on the draftnetwork.com. You'll see my positional rankings. They won't look like this. That's because scouting for a team is very, very different than scouting in a vacuum. When I can apply my scouting through the lens of a specific football team, it changes things. And that's why this is going to look a lot different than my typical stuff that you'll see on the draftnetwork.com. This is Buffalo Bills specific ratings. So in the first round, there are 4 wide receivers that I can get on board with for the Bills at pick 25. And look, we're going to talk about all these players, and yeah, there's a really good chance that some of these guys won't make it within 10 picks of 25. But I still want to talk about them. And these are in order of my personal preference. My wide receiver 1 is Jamison Williams out of Alabama. 6'1.5", 179, 32 1/8 inch arms, 9 1/4 hands. He's an elite athlete. We won't get to see him test because he tore his ACL in January. Watch his tape. You know he's a special, special athlete. I think he's the best vertical receiver in the class. He's an elite route runner with yards after catch ability. My only concern with Jamison Williams is maybe you wish he was a little more dense, right? You wish there was a little bit more thickness to him. He's 6'1.5", 179. You wish maybe he was 190, 195. And then he's got a torn ACL from January. Those are my 2 concerns. My comparison, and some of these comparisons I'll like more than others, but I think it's Will Fuller, where Will Fuller is a dominant down the field guy. But what I appreciate about Will is how he expanded his route tree and became a more complete receiver. And we saw that already from Jamison Williams after John Mechie got injured. You saw him kind of do everything. And I think that's a good comparison. Now, maybe you're a little sour because Will Fuller's been hurt, but think about a healthy Will Fuller and what that guy can get done, and I think Jamison Williams can have a similar impact. My wide receiver 2, first-round grade for the Bills, Chris Olave from Ohio State. 6 foot and 3/8, 187 pounds, 31 1/8 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands. He's an elite athlete in terms of speed and change of direction. My 2 favorite things about him is the vertical receiving ability. He can really win down the field, knows how to stack coverage, get behind, run away, good ball skills, good hands. And then I think he's a really outstanding route runner. He's a guy that is going to create separation, and he really does a good job of catching the football. So you want guys that can get open and catch the football and also win down the field? Hello, Chris Olave. My concern with Olave is that I just wish he was better after the catch. He's just not that good with the ball in his hands, which is really surprising given his speed and route running skill. Like, he's got the ability to break pursuit angles and get away from people. He's got the shiftiness to make people miss. It just doesn't translate to yards after catch. My comp for him is Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders. Now, the thing about that comp is Terry McLaurin's got like 20 pounds. He's like 200, 205 pounds, where Chris Olave is like 185, 190. So I don't love that piece of it, but in terms of how they win, I think it's very, very similar. My wide receiver 3, a pick I would love for the Bills at 25, Garrett Wilson, Ohio State, 5'11 3/4, 183 pounds, 32 inch arms, 9 7/8 inch hands. And he's an exceptional athlete. My 2 favorite things about Garrett Wilson is the route running and yards after catch. I mean, this guy really just knows how to get open, and he is creative and very good with the ball in his hands. And I'll also add that I think he's got exceptional hands and ball skills. He's got great body control and focus, and you can just tell that this guy, like, the game slows down for him at the catch point. My concern with Garrett Wilson is just I wish he was better at addressing contact as a route runner. When DBs can get hands on him, he can get stuck. So I think he's got to do a little bit better job of avoiding contact as a route runner, but when guys want to be physical and get hands on him, he's got to be able to play through that a little better. And so you get a little bit concerned about him playing on the outside and being challenged with press coverage. My pro comp for Garrett Wilson is Santonio Holmes. The last guy, my last first-round grade for the Bills player I would love to see them pick at 25 is Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. 5'10 5/8, 178 pounds, 30 3/4 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands. He's a good to slightly above average athlete when you consider his size, right? He's not a very big receiver. And, you know, if he was 6'1", 200 pounds and tested like he did, you'd say, wow, this is a really good athlete. But because he's 178 pounds, he's just a good to slightly above average athlete. My favorite things about Jahan Dotson is the competitive spirit. He plays big. I mean, he doesn't know he's 178 pounds. He is super competitive. Love the versatility. He's not a slot only. Don't let people tell you that. Just watch him play. I mean, I think he's actually like 75% outside, 25% in the slot. He's an interchangeable player. Love the route running, love the hands. He might have the best hands in the class. The concern with Dotson is you just wish he was a touch more dynamic for his size. If you're going to draft 5'11", 178 in the first round, you wish that this was legit like 4'3", hard to deal with speed. Now, his technical refinement helps maximize that speed, and he plays fast, but he's not like an elite tier athlete for 178 pounds. My comp for him, and this is one of the comps that I actually really, really like, Emmanuel Sanders. And I'm not talking late stage Emmanuel Sanders. Think like Denver Broncos, Pittsburgh Steelers version of Emmanuel Sanders. And I think you get a lot of that in Mr. Jahan Dotson. Need to tell you guys about a new partner, Athletic Greens. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted to see what all the hype was about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. I take it to jumpstart my day, and it gives me more energy and balances my diet in a simple way. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. Athletic Greens is critical for my daily routine. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, and it supports mental clarity and alertness. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship odds, podcasts, and reviews for all the different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, let's talk about some second-round targets. And maybe you're a little surprised I didn't mention some of the more common names there with first-round grades. And that's because, like I said last time, I don't just give out first-round grades. I discriminate against players that have deficiencies. Now, there's some high second-round grades that I really like, and you can make a case that at 25 they're worth it. But I am stingy with first-round grades, and you should be too. Let's talk about some of these second-round targets that I really like. This is my wide receiver 5 for the Bills. Christian Watson, North Dakota State University, 6'4.5", 208 pounds, 32.5-inch arms, 10 1/8-inch hands, great size. He's also an elite caliber athlete. I mean, this guy has size. He has elite athleticism. One of my favorite things about him, well, first of all, he's a big play machine. Check this out. 57 plays in college that went for at least 20 yards on 180 touches. That's crazy. That's a high clip of explosive plays. The other thing that I love about Christian Watson is that he's a height, weight, speed specimen. And I got to see him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl when you saw that show up. The concern with Christian Watson is just nuance, right? He's got to flesh out his skill set. He's got to become a more deceptive route runner. Got to become a little more focused at the catch point. Stuff like that. Just continue to evolve his game. Become a more nuanced technician at the position. But my goodness, height, weight, speed, explosive plays. He's got all of that ability. My comp for him, Martavis Bryant. You guys remember him from Clemson? Then he went to the Steelers. Really dynamic player. The next player on my list, and this is one that might surprise you, and I like this player. He's actually my wide receiver 3 in my normal board, and he carries a first-round grade for me on my normal board, but not my Bills-specific board. Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. 6'3 and 7/8, 219 pounds, 33-inch arms, 9 3/8-inch hands. In terms of athleticism, we don't have any testing numbers from him yet, but I do think he's a good athlete, especially for his size. My favorite things about him, his hands. I mean, this guy's got really, really, really sure hands. He plucks the football consistently away from his frame with extension. And then I love the route running for his size. I mean, you don't expect 6'4", 220 to be able to get in and out of breaks like Drake London can. But he gives you that ability. He's a really good route runner. My concern with Drake London is just versatility. You know, is this a guy that is a big slot can he play outside of the line of scrimmage and deal with press coverage with consistency? Because that's what's going to happen with him. He's not that type of like get behind you burner. And so he's going to have a lot of situations where guys are going to want to get hands on him and crowd him. And he's got to deal with it. I think he might be a little bit more of a big slot type player. My comp for him, Michael Pittman Jr. from the Indianapolis Colts and former USC wide receiver. The next player on the list, the complete opposite of Drake London, Calvin Austin III out of Memphis. I love this guy. 5'7" and 3/4. So he's like 5'8", 170 pounds, 30-inch arms, 9 1/4-inch hands. He is an elite caliber athlete. One of my favorite things about Calvin Austin, the release package and the route running. You watch this guy run routes, and it looks like the DB is trying to chase a rabbit. Go watch this guy play against Sauce Gardner. Everybody loves Sauce Gardner. Watch him try to run with Calvin Austin. Well, just that's this guy's different. Super explosive and twitched up. I love his hands and alpha mentality as well. He doesn't know he's 170 pounds. He plays big. He's got very confident hands, which is uncommon for receivers that are built like him. And he gives you return ability as well, including punt returns. The concern with Calvin Austin is you can fit him in your pocket. He is small. No way around it. He's a small dude. But this guy just knows how to get open, and he's a tough matchup for defenders. My pro comp for him is Marquise Goodwin. You guys remember him? Former draft pick of the Bills out of Texas. Remember when, I don't know if I'm going to say remember when, because this is me taking me back to my own thoughts. And I think this is a little bit a problem with the Bills and the quarterbacks that they had. But I thought Marquise Goodwin was a pretty well-rounded receiver. I just don't think the Bills had the quarterbacks to maximize him. But Josh Allen can maximize Calvin Austin. Next up is Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. 5'9" and 5/8 inch. 195 pounds, 31-inch arms, 10 1/4-inch hands. Big old hands for him. He's an excellent athlete. My favorite things are the route running and hands. And I love his toughness. This guy is willing to go over the middle of the field and make catches in traffic. Really good yak ability as well. Yak is yards after catch. The knock on Sky Moore is that he might be a slot only. This guy might not be a player that you can really be interchangeable with and play out on the line of scrimmage. He probably has to play in the slot. My comp for him, Sterling Shepard. Next up is George Pickens out of Georgia. We're still talking second-round grades here. 6'3" and 1/4, 195 pounds, 32 3/8 arms, 8 3/4 hands. So small hands for a big dude. Very good athlete. My favorite things about him are the hands, ball skills, and body control. And I think he's got a lot of untapped potential. You watch this guy and look, he didn't do much this past year because he was working back from a torn ACL. But you go back to the 2020 tape, and Georgia's quarterback situation in 2020 was not good. And you could tell he was just never fully in sync with the quarterbacks. The balls were coming late. Balls were forced. He was open and not getting targeted. And so I just feel like there's a lot of untapped potential because he's never been synced up with a quarterback yet at the college level. And I think the sky's the limit for him once that happens in the pros. The concern is that, he does have modest production. He's going to see a ton of press coverage. So he's going to have to develop that release package and show he can beat press and deal with contact. And then kind of the bigger thing, and this is why I'm not exactly sure he'll be a Bills target, is I don't think his football character and habits are going to fall in line with what the Bills typically prioritize in players they bring in. My comp for him is Chris Henry. Remember him with the Cincinnati Bengals? Next up is one of my personal favorites in the class, David Bell out of Purdue. 6 foot and 7/8, 212 pounds, 31 7/8 arms, 9 1/4-inch hands. He is a poor athlete, very, very below average. But what do I love about him? Separation. This guy is a crafty route runner. He's deceptive, and he creates a ton of space. Just watch him play. He gets away from coverage because he knows how to run routes. And he's got tremendous hands. He's tough. He'll go over the middle of the field. He'll go and get the football in a crowd. He has terrific hands and ball skills. The concern is just explosiveness. He doesn't have a lot of juice. He just doesn't. He's slow. And so I hate that about him, to be honest with you. I wish if this guy had some explosiveness, we're probably talking about like a Rashad Bateman end of the first round type pick. He's just not that. My comp for him, and before I say this, let me tell you, like, just chill out when I say this. Cooper Kupp is my comp for him. Cooper Kupp, also not a good athlete. 4.6, 40-yard dash, but he had good agility scores, but not super explosive. But he creates separation, knows how to get open, and catches the football. I see that same type of style of play in David Bell. Again, I'm not predicting that David Bell rewrites the single season receiving records like Cooper Kupp did this year, but they win in the same ways. I have two more second-round options to tell you about. John Mechie from Alabama is next up. 5'11 and a quarter, 187 pounds, 30 and 5/8, and the arm length, 9 and a quarter hands. He is an above-average athlete, although we will not get testing from him. You can watch him play and get a good feel for his athleticism. I'd say he's a above-average athlete. My favorite things about him, route running. He's a really, really good route runner, and I love the versatility. Not just by alignment. I think he can win inside and outside, but he can challenge all levels of the field and be successful. The concerns with John Mechie, he had a December ACL tear, and I just don't love him at the catch point. I got to be honest with you. I don't love his hands. I don't love his focus. I don't love his ball skills. Traffic, like contested situations are not going to be his thing. And I remember when we talked about him as a scouting staff with the Draft Network, we present players, everybody watches them in the same order, and we have good conversations. John Mechie is a player that I remember saying this about him. I said, I love everything about John Mechie right up until the point where he has to catch a football. Like the route running's there, the yards after catch is there, the release package, the deception, all of it's there. He's just not very consistent at the catch point. So I think you're going to have to live with some variance when it comes to John Mechie. My comp for him is Christian Kirk. That's one I don't love. He was a tough player for me to come up with a comp that I like. And the challenge with Christian Kirk is he's actually pretty good in contested situations. But I think mannerisms, movements, route running, versatility, all of that is very similar. Next up, Treylon Burks from Arkansas. Maybe you're surprised to see him this low on the list. Let me tell you about him. 6'2", 225 pounds, 33.5-inch arms, 9 7/8-inch hands. He is an average to below average athlete. My two favorite things about him, well, first of all, I have an appreciation for his role at Arkansas. He's a player that, like, if you remember high school football, and there, like, everybody had that one, like, really good player, and offenses just found ways to give him the ball, hand it to him, pitch it to him, throw it in space, screens, lob it up down the field, all that stuff, just to get him the football, the return game, right? That's what Treylon Burks was for Arkansas. They said, you're our best player. We need to find every possible way to get you the football, and they did that. So I have an appreciation for the role that he took and how he was able to create plays. And I love how competitive he is. I like his yards after catch ability, his size, and he's got good ball skills down the field. The concern with Treylon Burks and why he's very low on my list, maybe compared to where you see from other people, is just I don't think this guy's a very good route runner at all. There's no pace. There's no rhythm. He's not deceptive. And quite honestly, he just didn't win routes. He wasn't asked to run routes. It was, hey, win down the field with a vertical route, or we're just going to throw the ball to you in space. We're going to create space, throw it to you, and ask you to create. You will not find many examples of Treylon Burks on tape simply winning a route. And that's a pretty important thing for wide receivers to do. And so I think he can certainly develop in that area. I don't think he's going to be the type of player that has a full route tree at his disposal. Like, I think there'll be some limitations there just based on how he's built. But he's got a long, long way to go as a route runner. Now, here's the thing about Burks is I feel like a team like the Bills could maximize his skill set because the Bills have route runners. They have Diggs and Davis and Crowder, McKenzie, who can win, against man coverage. And so you introduce Treylon Burks to this room and you really like how he can kind of be sprinkled in. But if some team that needs like a number one receiver drafts Treylon Burks, I think they're in for a rude awakening. My comp for him, I got to be honest with you, I have no idea, but it's not, I can tell you it's not Deebo Samuel. I do not like that comp at all. We talk about Built Bars all the time, the world's best tasting protein bars, but have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, then you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate because all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and they're healthy for you. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. So many great flavors. They got mint brownie, coconut almond. They got raspberry. So many great flavors. New ones are coming out all the time. Check out Built.com often to stay on top of it. And at Built Bar, it's all about taste. They make it taste delicious first. Then they figure out how to make it healthy, and I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. Got a deal for you. Go to Built.com. Use our promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, let's get to the third round options and a few day 3 guys that I want to highlight. Again, we're focusing here on the kind of the day 1, day 2 players because I've already scouted over 30 receivers, and we're not going to talk about all of them. So kind of want to focus on those guys that would be really meaningful picks that I like. Third round, let's start with Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati. 6'3", 211 pounds, 33-inch arms, 9-inch hands. He's an outstanding athlete, especially for his size. So what do I like about him? Well, he's a height, weight, speed guy with really good ball skills and really good hands. He's physical. He's competitive. He plays to that size. The concern, he's got to develop that release package. He offers a lot of surface area to corners who want to be physical with him at the line of scrimmage. So develop that release package, get some handwork, get some footwork going, and reduce that surface area so you can always get into your routes on schedule. And then he's also just not going to be one of those guys that runs the whole route tree. The horizontal plane might not be at his disposal. Now he gets good vertical push, and that allows him to work back down the stem and kind of set up some vertical cuts and build off of that. But he's just not a guy that's going to snap his hips through and really win on the horizontal plane with consistency in my mind. My pro comp for him is DJ Chark. Next up, Khalil Shakir, Boise State, 5'11" and 7/8, 196 pounds, 29-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands. He's an above-average athlete. What do I love about him? Well, the football character. Everybody you talk to raves about him and how much he loves football and how committed he is to being a technician and just developing his game. And then I love his route running. I love his ball skills. I love that he has return ability. He's just a very likable football player when you pop on the tape. The concern with Shakir is that he's probably a slot only at the next level, and he's got a very minimal catch radius. He's not a guy that really is going to be an accuracy eraser and really go get footballs that are outside of his kind of very modest wingspan. Now, he's got good ball skills, so he'll go get the football. He just doesn't have a lot of radius to him. My comp for him, not one that I loved here, Golden Tate, but not the same level of yards after catch. Now, Shakir's pretty good after the catch, but not like Golden Tate, who I think when he was in his prime, like one of the top 5 yards after catch guys in the league. Last player we'll go in depth with is Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama. 6'1" and an eighth, 194 pounds, 32.25-inch hands. 32.25-inch arms, 10-inch hands. I think he's a good athlete. Smooth route runner. Actually, I'd say he's an above-average route runner. I like his vertical routes a lot. Nearly 18 yards per catch throughout his career. He wins down the field. I like him as an outside receiver that can do a lot for your offense. The concern with him is that he has some variance at the catch point. There's going to be some drops, and he played really well against Tennessee. You pop on that tape, but he pretty much just destroyed the Sun Belt, and so I think he's got a little bit of a jump here in competition. Think Tyler Boyd, Cedric Wilson type player here in terms of comp. Let me shout out a couple of day 3 players that I like, and look, I could probably give you 15 more, but kind of early day 3, 4th round, Danny Gray from SMU gives you speed, gives you route running. He's an ascending talent, JUCO guy that came to SMU and really exploded this past season. Like what he brings to the table. And then Velus Jones out of Tennessee. He's got legit 4.3 speed, and he's got return ability, punt and kick return. Now, he's going to be like 25 years old as a rookie, so that's concerning. But I think as a niche receiver for your team that gives you return upside, Velus Jones is a really nice target. Again, I could talk about a lot more receivers, but these are kind of those top 120 players that I think really fit what the Bills need. And those are the guys I wanted to focus on for this primer. We'll get into, at some point, I'll get into some of my favorite like sleepers, mid to late day 3 picks, those types of guys. But for this, just focusing on, top 120 type prospects. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you feel ready to navigate this NFL draft through the lens of the Buffalo Bills when it comes to wide receivers. And we'll do this at least for cornerback. So we did running back, we did wide receiver, we'll do cornerback, because I feel like those are the 3 glaring gotta have it needs. And I'd be interested if you feel like there are other positions that we should do a deep dive like this. Let me know, because right now I only plan on cornerback. Maybe interior offensive line. Let me know if you want to hear me ramble about guards and centers for 35 minutes. Let me know. But so far I've only planned running backs, corners, and wide receivers. So we'll get to corners very, very soon. But I wanted to focus in on those big need positions. And then we'll talk a lot of other draft stuff. But in terms of these positional deep dives, that was my plan. But I'm open to your feedback. Let me know. And that's going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, herd mentality. Got a ton of great questions lined up for that. We'll do the cornerback primer later in the week. I have some Brandon Beane specific stuff I want to get into, because it's going to be a great week here on the podcast. So make sure you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.